welcome to Laird Wellness Live. Scott Laird, Jody Laird.
Hello.
Sorry, good evening. Yeah,
good
sorry,
evening.
good evening.
Good day.
So, I hope you enjoyed this title. It's Shrooms for Immunity. Yes, we're going to talk about mushrooms. Maybe not the mushrooms you'd encounter at a rock concert or something like that, but it's mushrooms nonetheless. And there's some very interesting things about mushrooms that we are going to talk about. All kinds of new research being done on these things because I guess maybe they're anticipating that mushrooms are going to be legal one day or something. I don't know, but they're good for all kinds of stuff.
Or we'll be foraging.
Foraging, right? Yep, foraging for food and such. And well, hope you had a good week anyway. And we certainly did. Had some fun with friends, and we are anticipating summer, and I hope you are too. Now, speaking of summer, so we're going to have a sale on two different things. Okay, so we're going to tell you about it right now. I'm going to turn this camera up so I don't cut off my head. There we go. That's better. So we're going to have a sale. So we don't have anything on the bottom of the screen prepared for it. So you just got to hang on with me, okay? So if you want to get $25 off our Discovery Panel blood test, which you are going to talk about tonight, you use the code FREEDOM. Upper and lowercase doesn't matter. Just write the word FREEDOM.
Right. That's
for $25 off the Discovery Panel blood test. And then you can get 20% off almost everything else in the store with the code JULY4. And you just run it all together. JULY, the number 4. July 4. Use that to get 20% off, and it all ends midnight, July 4th.
Okay. So
there we go. So again, freedom to get $25 off the blood panel. If you're waiting to do that, do it now because we don't do this very often. So $25 off that. And again, July 4, all run together, 20% off almost everything else. Okay, so let's get into why mushrooms are so good.
I have a saying about mushrooms.
Go ahead.
I first of all, I would love to go to a mushroom course because we're going to talk about a few of them tonight, but there's so many of them, and you can it's a science, and you can nail it down to, like, for instance, I have Hashimoto's. You can nail it down to exactly what you have and how it will help. But my saying is, all mushrooms are edible. Sometimes only once.
Yeah, well.
That's what I tell my son because he really is into mushrooms, not the illegal kind, although he is fascinated with all kinds of mushrooms. He's just amazed with mushrooms. I'm like, well, they're all edible, son. I don't want you going out there and doing it, but they're all edible, but sometimes only once.
What was that movie, Into the Wild, where this guy went and lived in a school bus in the middle of Alaska, ate the wrong thing?
But it wasn't mushrooms, was it? It was berries.
Oh, it was berries or something. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a true story. Anyway, good movie from many years ago. Yep. So mushrooms, we're going to focus on 3 different kinds tonight. We're going to focus on Shiitake, Mataki, and Chaga. Those are the 3 different mushrooms from Chinese medicine that we will talk about because all of them have good properties for immunity. Right. And some of them are kind of surprising. They're really, really good for immunity, specifically for cancer. What I derived here tonight is from one of the magazines we get here. We have Life Extension Magazine, and if you want to see more about what we're talking about tonight, including all of the references for the stuff we're going to talk about, we're going to show you a couple of the studies, but there was more than, there must have been 30 references to this one article about mushrooms. And it's in the July edition of the Life Extension Magazine. You don't have to have the magazine. You can go online to lifeextension.com. We get some of their stuff for our store. That's why they give us a magazine. And so I went online and found all this stuff from that article. So it's really good. It's basically called Mushrooms for... It's very similar to our topic is tonight, mushrooms for immunity or immune-enhancing mushrooms or something like that. Anyway, so we're going to talk about 3 different kinds of mushrooms, and they all have what's called beta-glucans. So first of all, let's get into what is a beta-glucan. So first of all, here we go. This is the types of foods where we can get beta-glucans. We can get them from bacteria. We can also get them from cereals, i.e. oats and barley. We can get them from fungi. I'm a fun guy. Did you know that?
You are
a fun guy. Mushrooms and such, and you can also get them from brewer's yeast, things of that nature. Now, on the right-hand side there, you'll see what types of things are good for. So gut health for bacteria. And in fact, you're going to find something out about the mushrooms as well that makes them good for gut health a little bit later when we talk about prebiotics. And if you know what prebiotics are, you'll know what we're going to talk about. And if not, we'll explain it. And the cereals are good for heart health. Now, that's something that a lot of keto folks may need to get through their minds, that the cereals are good for heart health. we're having a very good episode of Shabbat Night Live tomorrow night with a lady named Sue Becker, and she says it's all about how we're making bread these days. There's actually nothing wrong with the grains themselves if we do it right. So that's very interesting. I encourage you to go watch it. Might change your mind. It changed our minds. Well, we haven't done anything about it yet, but it's changing my mind. And of course, fungus and yeast, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, are good for immunity. So beta-glucans are essentially polysaccharides that are naturally occurring in the cell walls of things like seaweed, whole grains, fungi, mushrooms. So what are polysaccharides? So polysaccharides are essentially carbohydrate structures, to keep it simple. That's what it is. So those are the beta-glucans. Beta-glucans are what we're going to focus on tonight in these 3 different types of mushrooms. So there are thousands of types of mushrooms, like Jody said, but we're going to focus on these 3 because of their immune function, because that's what we really want to focus on.
But you know what? Eat as many as you can.
Right. And especially since, we have found out recently that COVID's back, right? So there's lots of people who are having issues now, and Jody was just on the phone a little while ago with someone who's got it. And so,
somebody who lost, same person, husband and wife in Charlotte. The husband passed away last Friday, and the wife is very sick right now. Very sad.
Now, he had dementia.
Yes.
He had lots of other things going on, so it's not like there's a super deadly strain out there.
And they're older.
And they're older. They're in their 80s. So sad, but nonetheless. Speaking of sad, by the way, we should really pay tribute to a personal friend of mine. We used to text back and forth all the time, and then once he started doing treatments, that kind of waned a little bit, but I do consider him a personal friend. He's a hero of mine. Dr. Zev Zelenko passed away today. A hero to people who have been going through COVID and just wanted something natural to help them. Dr. Zelenko developed the protocol that first caught the attention of President Trump. And when he mentioned there's this country doctor who has this thing I want to try, remember that? That was Dr. Zelenko. Dr. Zelenko was not an old guy. He had a big gray beard, but he was 48 years old. And he had cancer of, it was basically, he told me, it was like, it was a complicated tumor. Because I asked him how it was going in May, and he said, well, it's very complicated. It's into all kinds of things. It was between his heart and his lungs. It was attached to his heart. Doctors were like, we can't do anything about this. They basically told him in 2018 it was going to be terminal, and they just didn't know when. Well, that day came. And I like to say he graduated from this world because that man loved God with all his heart. He was a Hasidic Jew. He loved God. He loved his family. He helped people. He didn't fear nothing.
And if you can look up one of his last messages, I just listened to it in its entirety. That man is amazing, and he wanted God for everybody in the world. It doesn't matter what faith you are, get back to God. That was his message, and don't comply. Right. And he gets invited to a lot of these Christian freedom movements, these big things they have in the arenas and big hotels. He would gladly go. He didn't care if you were Jewish or Christian. He could tell. He would, before he came on my show, The Health Awakening, I've interviewed him before. He kind of checked me out and asked people about me behind the scenes that I didn't know about. But once he saw, he looks for character before but then once he sees your character, he's in with you. And so that's what he bases his relationships on. So that's what I really appreciate about Zev Zelenko. Wisdom beyond his years. If you listen to this guy, it's like, wow, this guy must be in his late 60s, the way he speaks. But he was 48. Amazing. So anyway, he leaves behind 8 kids. He was previously married. He was divorced. And then he's got 8 kids. But they're all taken care of. A good friend of ours helped put together foundations for him and such. So they're taken care of, which is all right. All right. So let's get back on to our subject here. Mushrooms. We're going to start with shiitake. Let's talk about shiitake mushrooms. So shiitake mushrooms, they improve the immune defenses by increasing the number of immune system cells. So this is the T cells, which fight all kinds of viruses, the natural killer cells or NK cells, which you've heard about, and that can kill a wide variety of virally infected cells and tumors, including cancer, right? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about shiitake mushrooms. Now, specifically, they can help with bacterial lung infection. Here's one of the studies done with shiitake mushrooms. So purified beta-glucans, so that's what we talked about in the beginning, from shiitake mushrooms. They will ameliorate, I always have
trouble with that word.
Ameliorate.
Ameliorate.
It's
Thank
a good
you.
French word. We used to make better.
To make better antibiotic resistant pulmonary blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it helps with bacterial lung infection. And it helps to reduce sepsis. So check this out. So the word they're using for glucan in this next, or beta-glucan rather, in this next slide is lentitin. So when you see that word, that's what it means. I've highlighted it here. So lentitin extracts was what they used. Go down to the blue section at the bottom. Administration of basically beta-glucans to treat sepsis-induced lung injury appears safe and effective. So they're using it to actually help people get over sepsis. And sepsis is one of those things that was kind of finishing people off if they had COVID really bad and didn't understand what they had and let it go too long and that type of thing. So, so really this is why I think this study was done. This study was done in 2021? Is that what it said? I think it was done, let's see, it was 2020. Yep, October of 2020. So that's probably why they were looking into it, because they saw that was happening. I actually had an aunt pass away of sepsis.
Yeah.
And I think they never determined whether or not she had COVID because it was really early on and everybody really didn't understand what they were looking at. I think that's what it was. So anyway, mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms can actually help with that. How about that?
So are they saying the extract? So it's like really
concentrated.
Yeah. Or
so everything we're talking about here tonight, if you just eat a bunch of mushrooms, if there's nothing really seriously wrong with you, it'll probably help kill off the small bit of whatever you're suffering with that is related to these things. But if you have full-blown lung infection or sepsis or tumors, well, yeah, then probably a supplement.
Yeah. So there
can help with that.
Yeah, there's some really great mushroom guys online. I should have got the guy's name. He's a mushroom guy, and he's
a mushroom. He's a fun guy.
Very, very smart when it comes to mushrooms, and you can actually consult with him.
Okay.
To get, different mushrooms.
So basically, he prescribes mushrooms.
He basically prescribes mushrooms, and he's got a whole presentation on it. And I watched the presentation; it was amazing. It's out. It was actually on Health Revival Partners, and it may be on YouTube right now.
Do you remember his name?
Oh gosh,
That's okay.
No. It's the mushroom guy.
The mushroom. We'll figure it out. We'll get it to you somehow. Anyway, so that was one study. So shiitake mushrooms also help the secretion of, they boost the secretion of antibodies. The antibodies that protect the digestive tract and reduce C-reactive protein, which is a big marker that you want to watch out for, and harmful chronic inflammation. Mm-hmm. When we see C-reactive protein elevated on a blood test for too long, that's there's something going on with the heart here, and unless we turn that around, there may be a heart attack in the future. So that's why we want to look at that. Right. So here's one study again that looked at that. So it was regarding this. Okay, so remember the term cytokine storm, speaking of COVID and sepsis. So again, here's something to do with that. So the changes observed in cytokine and serum CRP levels, remember C-reactive protein, that's what that stands for, suggest that these improvements occurred under conditions that were less inflammatory than those existed before the consumption of the mushrooms.
Right.
So there you go. So the mushrooms helps that as well. All right, so that pretty much takes care of the shiitake mushrooms. So now we're going to talk about a different one. I think everybody's heard of shiitake mushrooms. Now there's Mataki mushrooms.
Right.
I had to write it down phonetically for myself over here. It says Mataki mushrooms. And it is spelled like this. There you go. And there's a picture of one right behind there. That's what we had under the shiitake as well. That is a Mataki mushroom underneath there. So that is the one we're talking about. So what are Mataki... I'm paying so much attention to saying it, I can't say it. Mataki mushrooms. What are they good for? So they're good for many of the same type of things that shiitake are. They increase anti-tumor effects. And in fact, we have a study regarding that. Let me just show you right there. So now this is preclinical studies. They were shown to activate immune cells such as the natural killer cells, just like the shiitake did.
Right. And
macrophages, which are among the first immune cells to fight an infection. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So that is what the Mataki, I'm trying to get through it too fast. Mataki mushrooms are good for. So now here's something interesting. you've heard of complementary medicine, and quite often we hear that term when people are going through cancer protocols, right? So they don't want to just do the chemo, and they don't want to just do the mushrooms or whatever. They want to do both. How can they do both? And sometimes, the chemo, sometimes that just gets the big problem out of the way, and then the supplements and things like this and good lifestyle that can clean up where the chemo left off, or make the chemo less invasive and make it less damaging to the body, because chemo is very damaging. So in that respect, Maitake mushrooms are very useful to reduce the impact of the chemo. So check this out. So here's a study done on that very thing. Now, Defraction at the top of the page there, it says, we examined whether Defraction could decrease the effective dosage of chemotherapeutic agent, MMC, so that's a cancer drug, necessary to control carcinoma in mice. So this is not a study done on people, but on mice. So Defraction is basically the beta-glucans from Maitake mushrooms. Okay, so that's what that is. So at the bottom there, we'll skip down to what the conclusion was, and they said increasing the proliferation, differentiation, and activation of immunocompetent cells provided essentially a clinical benefit for patients with cancer. So in other words, yes, it worked. The Defraction, or the beta-glucans from the Maitake mushrooms, decreased the effective dosage of what was needed to treat the cancer in the mice. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. So people can use mushrooms. Something that I take every day, and I don't want to say take it. It's not a supplement. It's really a food. And a lot of people do when they're going through cancer therapy is barley max. It's basically a dried juice of barley grass. And boy, is that ever good. It helps all kinds of things. Fights cancer, antioxidant, all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, so this mushroom does the same type of thing. It helps your body need less of the chemotherapy drug. Right. How about that?
And I try and take mushrooms. I take them, and I take about a bottle, and then I rest for a bit. Don't take it for a couple months, and then I'll buy it again. And I take like a whole kind of conglomeration of it. I also have mushroom coffee, so when I don't feel like having
is that stuff any good?
It's not brilliant, but there's mushrooms in it, so sometimes it's not about the taste. It's more about, it's actually pretty good with cream in it.
Well, anything's pretty good with cream in it.
With coconut cream or whatever. No, I just use coconut cream. Okay. So it's pretty good with that.
Got it.
But anyways, I'm taking it for the mushrooms and for the effect, not for
the taste, like
not
coffee.
For the taste, you know.
Okay. So anyway, Maitake mushrooms are also good for something that our friend Dr. Judy Mikovits talking about Dr. Zelenko. Dr. Judy Mikovits, I consider her as a friend as well. And so she talks about the interferons, which help your body protect it protects yourself. They're a part of the immune function. That's what I'm trying to say. Not very well. But anyway, so there's a study done on that as well. So apparently extracts of these mushrooms also induce the secretion of interferons. Okay. And again, that was another word that was passed around a lot with COVID. And when everybody started understanding their immune system, when this thing came around, everybody was trying to learn about it, especially us, and trying to tell you guys about it. Now, those interferons are proteins that improve the body's ability to defend infection. There you go. So there is the definition. Right. So here is a study that was on that very topic. So they focused on, at the top there, orally administered glucan, Maitake, and Shiitake. So basically eating the mushrooms.
Got it.
Orally administered. They ate them. So here's what the conclusion was. Short-term oral application, i.e. eating, of natural immunomodulating glucans, so basically they help the immune system, from Maitake and Shiitake mushrooms strongly stimulated both the cellular and humoral branch of immune reactions. These activities were significantly higher than those of AHCC. Now, AHCC is another extract of mushrooms. So they're saying basically, well, we thought it was this in the mushrooms, but it's actually the beta-glucans, and orally administered, so they ate them. Basically, eating the whole food is better.
Go back to that. Eat as many mushrooms as you can.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is a really weird looking mushroom, and I looked around for a picture of this and I thought, is that the right picture? Because I've never seen this one before, but maybe you have. It's called a chaga mushroom.
David Wolf speaks about chaga mushrooms all the time. He's
Yeah.
a big mushroom proponent.
And they're, if you think about it, you've probably seen them near you because they grow on birch trees.
Okay.
On the outside of birch trees. I saw all kinds of pictures of this. I thought, oh, I've seen those. I just didn't know what they were, and certainly didn't know they were
Turkey
edible.
tail. Turkey tail is one that you can see that grows on trees, and it looks like a shelf. And that one is actually very good for Hashimoto's. That was one of the ones that is in the conglomeration of mushrooms I take.
So now this one is, where I say it's near you is because it grows normally, like I said, in birch trees, and that's in Europe, Asia, North America, up around here. So they're very powerful immunomodulators. So that's what the chaga mushrooms are good for. So these mice in this next study we're going to show you regarding the chaga mushrooms were actually given an immunosuppressing drug. So they purposely brought down the immune system of the mice. Now, why would you do that? Because, that's what chemotherapy does, right? It basically kills off your immune system so that it doesn't fight against the chemotherapy.
Right.
So chemotherapy can just go in and do its job. So, not a great idea, but if you have to, you have to. So this is what the study did, and the chaga mushrooms had an effect on that. So we are going to take a look at that. So, so the chaga extract returned the levels of the immune systems almost back up to normal. So here again, we have a situation of the mushrooms bringing the immune system back up when it's being when the immune system is being attacked by the chemotherapy or some other therapy. The mushrooms bring back the immune system.
Wow.
So essentially, you don't have to lose your hair and don't leave the house because any little infection is going to kill you if you're on a really heavy chemotherapy drug. You take the chaga mushrooms and they will help bring up the immune system while the chemo does its job.
I'm sure there's studies out there about what we've gone through with the pandemic and mushrooms bringing the immune system back up.
Right. So basically this means that chaga mushrooms are great for combating immune suppressing treatments like chemotherapy, another complementary medicine. And here's the result of that. So in the yellow there, let's just skip down to the yellow. So it increased the immune system almost to the level seen in the non-treated control in as early as 8 days after treatment.
Wow.
So basically in a week, your immune system is back to normal. Wow, that is crazy. So these results in the blue strongly suggest the great potential of the aqueous extract. So basically, they got an extract of the chaga mushroom, which is what that that word is there. The Anotus ubiquus, as the immune enhancer during chemotherapy specifically. How about that? Interesting.
Yeah.
So now there's two ways that our body reacts to things. There's innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Perhaps you've heard of innate immunity, maybe not adaptive immunity. So we want to kind of share what those two things are and how these mushrooms relate to that, because they're two completely different responses. It's almost like when you call 911 and the police come and the fire truck comes.
Right.
So it's two different departments. They do two different things, but they're both called into action when something happens.
Got it.
That's what happens here. See how good I am with these things right now?
Is that just off the top of your head?
It is off the top of my head. Could you tell?
No.
Probably. Yeah. No. So anyway, so here's the difference between adaptive and innate immunity. Okay, so this was taken directly from that life extension article I was telling you about. So immune responses can be divided into two types: innate immunity and adaptive immunity. First, what is innate immunity? It is the body's first line of defense. It is comprised of sentinel cells that detect and attack a wide range of different viruses and pathogens. Cells of innate immunity include macrophages, neutrophils, NK cells, and others. So we cover several of those, like neutrophils specifically, when we are looking at your blood, when we're doing our blood test.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the adaptive immunity are the big guns. So these are the big guys. This is the fire truck that comes, that are brought in later to fight off specific threats. a particular bacteria or virus, for example, once they have been identified. This also helps the body develop long-term immunity to the pathogen. The most important of these cell types are the lymphocytes. When we look at your blood, we look at the lymphocyte to neutrophil ratio because of these two different types of immunity.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Including various B cells and T cells. Beta glucans, which are found in the mushrooms we are speaking of tonight, have a remarkable ability to activate and stimulate both innate and adaptive immunity. Okay. Not many things can do that. How about that? That's why the mushrooms are so important and why they've been so revered in Chinese medicine for, what, thousands of years?
For sure.
So the Chinese, discovered this long time ago. And now we're finally waking up to it and discovering, well, what is it in these? We're doing these tests and isolating them and putting them in aqueous solutions.
That's one of those things in my life. If I have enough time, I would love to be an expert on mushrooms.
Yeah.
I would like to know everything there is to know about mushrooms so that I could help people. But man, it takes a long time.
We'll start with these three.
Yeah.
You could start there. So essentially, that's what mushrooms, these particular mushrooms do. So they help both sides of the immunity equation. So here's basically a summary of all that. The magic of mushrooms, if you will. Various mushrooms have long been used for the medicinal properties. The medicinal mushrooms, along with baker's yeast, there's another one you can use, contain compounds called the beta-glucans. These nutrients are responsible for many of the health benefits of mushrooms. In studies, some of which you have seen tonight, mushrooms and beta-glucans can help strengthen the immune system in several ways, boosting healthy immune responses. So there you have it. I think that's why they're separating mushrooms and beta-glucans. So you can eat the whole mushroom and get all the benefits like we talked about, or there are beta-glucan supplements that you can take specifically to target things. Along with direct antiviral activity, this immune system enhancement helps the body defend against infection and more rapidly eliminate infections that do occur. And a combination of beta-glucans from yeast along with shiitake, Mataki, and chaga mushrooms provide a wide range of compounds to help boost immunity. So there you go. If you want to boost your immune system, eat mushrooms and start with those three. We started buying some mushrooms from the store, but we didn't realize they were in the fridge and we left them so long they went bad. So we got to do it over again.
About a month ago, I said, go to the store and just buy the craziest mushrooms are there. And let's just start eating more mushrooms.
Right.
And then 2 days ago, I went into the fridge and I'm like, what? They were buried under the broccoli.
Now, I've seen in the store, you can get the shiitake.
Yeah.
You can get the oyster mushrooms, which you did not talk about tonight. The Mataki mushrooms, I may or may not have seen. Have you? Okay, I didn't know what I was looking at.
I've eaten them before. I have not eaten chaga. Well, I maybe have, but not.
Yeah, the chaga mushrooms look strange. They look almost kind of like a powder if you...
Yeah. I guess I've eaten lots of different ones in my coffee, but...
I guess so, yeah, right? They blend them all together. It's one of the hot trends out there. Anyway, so we mentioned that your immunity tied to lymphocytes and to you got the monocytes, you got lymphocytes, or you have the neutrophils, all those type of things. I can't think of all five of them at this moment. Why can't I think of all five of them?
I'm not sure where you're going.
Anyway, basophils, eosinophils. There's the other ones. Yeah. We test all of these in your blood to see how your immune system is doing. And by looking at the ratios between certain ones, we can see whether you're fighting a virus, whether fighting bacteria, and if you're fighting both, that might be an early warning signal to cancer. And that's good because you can catch it now before it develops into something that somebody puts a label on.
Right.
We don't put labels on stuff. We don't diagnose. We don't prescribe. We look at your blood and say, hey, you're heading in this direction, but if you don't change course, you may be headed for that. So it's really good. It's a real good opportunity to take a look at your blood, see what's going on.
Change some things up.
Make some changes. Yep, change things up so that you don't end up where we're seeing. And you know what? It can be changed around pretty quickly. Yep. Like within 3 months, we've seen people reduce their cancer risk from, oh boy, you're 50% down to like 7. I completely changed my cholesterol from being too low and not enough of this and not enough of that to actually giving myself some brain risk if I didn't change things to completely turning things around. And that only took a few months. Yep. So it doesn't take long. The issue is not knowing. People go, how did I end up with cancer? Because you never checked. You never had somebody go in there and say, hey, what we're seeing on the blood test results, most doctors would say, oh, you're fine. We're a lot fussier than that. We look at, well, this says you're fine. This says we want you to be here. If you're outside of that, we're going to help get you inside the good range. We're a lot more fussier with our ranges. Yep. So by doing that, we can catch things a lot sooner than just, forgive the term, a run-of-the-mill doctor looking at a run-of-the-mill LabCorp report saying, oh, you're fine, because there's no flags. Well, we're going to certainly flag some certain things that they're not going to. And other ones that they do flag, we're not going to. For example, I just spoke with somebody tonight about it. I spoke to a guy named Richard. Richard was concerned that his cholesterol was too high. Okay. He had a total cholesterol of 259. And I said, that's really good. He says, what? It's flagged on the LabCorp. But look, it says not good.
Right.
It says it's high. And any doctor would look at that and go, oh, that means you need to be on a statin. We need to get you on a statin right now. And that's why it's there. That's why it's at 199. So it gives the doctor an excuse to say, oh, we need to put you on a statin to get you below 199. 199, that's just the beginning. We like to see total cholesterol between 200 and 260.
And I'll tell you what, I say it every week. Probably 85 to 90% of people have high cholesterol according to LabCorp and whatever the regular doctor world.
No.
But listen, people, you need your fat. If you don't have your fat, you're not going to have this. Your brain is going to get dehydrated, and we have a huge epidemic with dementia. You need your fat to keep your brain going. And
you might say, well, okay, fat and cholesterol, that's not the same thing. Right. So what is your blood? Your blood is a water-based system, right? And fat is an oil-based system. So how does oil get through the water-based blood system to go to where it needs to go, to your brain? It travels in a little vehicle called cholesterol. So if you don't have cholesterol, the fat-soluble nutrients cannot make it around your water-based blood system.
Yep.
That's why you need it, right? Dr. Lewis calls it soap, essentially. And it's funny, when he shows a picture of cholesterol versus soap, the chemical makeup of it looks exactly the same. It's very much, and that's how he came to the conclusion that, oh wow, this is just soap. That's all it is. Because what does soap do? It takes the grease off your dishes and pulls it away and puts it in the bubble and pulls it away. Because if you don't wash without soap, you're not going to get the grease off. So anyway, so that is what our blood test does. Tells you the good parameters, gets you on a good track, and here's how you can do it. You go to our webpage, you go to lairdwellness.com. This is the very first thing you will see. And remember to use the code FREEDOM to get 25% off of this thing.
$25.
$25 off of this thing. $25 looks a lot better than a percentage anyway. So yeah, $25. You're gonna get $25
looks
off
better
of the test, and so you can do that. And then also, if you want to get something else in the store, remember the code July4, JULY, the number 4, all run together. That's what you use to get 20% almost everything else in the store. It all goes through Holiday Monday to the end of July 4th at midnight, and we hope you can take advantage of that. Thank you for paying attention tonight. We hope that you enjoyed this presentation and you got something out of it. So,
and eat your mushrooms.
And eat your mushrooms. That's what we want you to do, right? So we're going to get on that train too. We haven't done much of that, but you're doing the coffee, and we're looking for all kinds of different mushrooms. So tell us what kind you find. And if you're already in that habit, tell us what kind that you use and why you use them, okay?
Right.
Just put it in the chat. All right, now, if you want to see this later, if you want to pass this on to family and friends, you can always find all of our episodes at lairdwellness.com/YouTube or lairdwellness.com/Rumble. That's where we put them. It's as simple as that. And until next time, we will see you. Have a good weekend.
Take care. Bye-bye.